Hello. So I just started this recording. It was 11:11 on the clock. As I hit record, it like literally turned to 11:12, and I'm personally going through like I guess you can say like a temporary pause with sort of how I show up and create, express, etc. And I was asking myself like if the way I'm still currently navigating YouTube and Patreon is still like in alignment, or is something different coming through. I do have something on in the background. It's a subliminal, but it actually has words, and I wasn't expecting it to have words. Let's see. Anyway, so when I went to look at the clock, it was 11:11, and I just heard like I got a feeling to push record. And of course, with like number synchronicity, I know sometimes it can feel a little bit like maybe gimmicky or over the top. But in those moments, when it's like that synchronistic, when there's multiple feelings, confirmations, etc. And of course, it depends where you are within that spectrum of like working with synchronicity, of course, too. But anyway, yeah. I have multiple things written down because I have not recorded in a little bit, maybe like a week. So I feel like I'm a little bit brimming with things. So if I'm sort of all over the place, that may be happening. Just a little heads up. Okay. Excuse me. So, interesting. Okay. I wanted to see where the starting point can sort of start now. I feel like I'm dragging my feet actually. And as I said that, my left foot started to hurt a little bit. Like I'm feeling aching, especially on the top of the foot. I can't remember the proper medical anatomical name for that, but yeah, I feel like I have so much to say, and that I'm just sort of dragging my feet, like I said. So that could be a message for someone. Like maybe there's like this push and pull sort of thing where you feel like you're about to like explode with something, information, expression, creativity, to-do list, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't know, and then you get distracted or something. I think there's something about, dragging the feet. Someone literally maybe just hurt their foot. Yeah, it could be different for each person. I'm just going to sit with that another second because I feel like there's something underneath that's like, I kept hearing to trust your own timing. I know that I actually have been feeling, I just heard in my head like an artificial sense of pressure, but it's a little bit paradoxical because it does feel like a time right now of potency to take inspired action. But it's sort of like, I just felt like a sigh of relief. Like the more we can perhaps, and you'll know that, if this is for you, really like I'm hearing to open up your receiving line and see if it feels good for you. If not, then please just let it go. But it sort of feels like the best space to create from, or to like express or launch whatever this is, you'll just be doing it. And it's really funny because I feel like I've heard people say this before, and I would kind of get frustrated, like, sure, okay, but it really does happen like that every time. And know that if you are experiencing some sort of like again, dragging your feet, or frustration, or like apathy, or just something. I just keep hearing like, just take your foot off of, so much foot references coming through, off of like the pedal metaphorically, and focus on something else. And you know what? It's really interesting because the other day I was feeling this exact energy that I'm talking about. And I honestly didn't even write this down. I wasn't going to talk about this, but it's coming through. And I had this, I've been having this idea off and on for like seriously a few years. And every time I try to work on it, it just never felt right to release, you know? And then I tried something, maybe a little bit of a different approach, or I was thinking about it, let's say that. And then all of a sudden I just sat down and started doing it. Like I wasn't planning, I was actually going to go do something else. And it was like something just took over and it just started happening. Little side note, if anyone's interested, I think I'm going to be launching like a bigger tier. I don't know if that's the right word, bigger tier. I'm going to incorporate this idea into Patreon, I'm pretty sure. So if you're interested, stay tuned for that. But anyway, for you, it feels like there's like permission or something, like giving yourself permission to not force it. And again, if you're feeling that frustration or dragging your feet, and now my head just started to hurt. I feel like I just got like an aching in my head, on the top of my shoulders, and the left side of why can't I remember the name of this body part? Ugh. I'm touching it right now. On the side of the spine, behind the shoulder blade. It almost feels like I pulled something all of a sudden. Yeah, the top of the neck too. So they say like the top of the neck pain is like burdens, carrying others' burdens, carrying the weight of the world type of thing. So maybe this is an opportunity to check in with yourself to see if you're maybe still, it feels more like lingering patterns or lingering energetics that you're carrying, of maybe like a cycle that you've just sort of closed. You know, sometimes it takes all the parts of us, all the different bodies, to catch up to what's happening in the moment. So there may be like parts of you that are like updated and other parts of you that are still kind of lagging, again, like that dragging feet energy. So something I like to do is just it can be, 15 seconds, or it can be an hour, like however much time you want to invest, or incrementally invest your time, to just like, and you may already be doing this, and if so, like this is just a validation that it will alchemize, to continue doing it, or to start to just call your energy back. I like to just call it in. It sounds so simple, but it really is just taking a moment. And the more we expand and open up to these subtle bodies, these different energetic layers, and again, there's a lot of paradoxical energy, because it's almost like when we expand, it's like coming back. Maybe you're working with the law of one teachings, it's like coming back into the law of one, a soul stream, like a monadic soul stream, like clicking into your multidimensionality, your activated 12 DNA strands. But then when we're still in this incarnated human body, sometimes there are different layers that need different parts of attention. So when we open up to all of these aspects, sometimes, it's kind of like when you update an operating system on a computer, sometimes you have to restart it. And I've used this analogy before, and let everything sort of update. So that's kind of what this feels like. And especially whenever you find this, I just recorded about merging timelines and quantum jumping. I think that was my last transmission. So yeah, it's like once you, make that jump, let's say, of course, then there's that lag time. And so it's just like a recalibration. So that's kind of what this feels like, a recalibration. I feel like it took me a little bit to get there, so thank you for your patience. But again, I trust now more than ever the way that these messages and transmissions sort of come in, because every time there's always, even if I don't see it right away, I'll be shown some sort of confirmation of the bigger picture of how things are unfolding. So yeah. I just paused for a moment and it was 10:10 on the timer, 10:10:66, and I've been seeing repeating sixes and 10:10 quite a bit. Ferris wheels or some sort of wheel symbology has been coming through a lot. And whatever collective I'm tuning into right now really feels like maybe someone here is like honing their niche, because I heard the word niche. But this collective feels like when I was shown the Ferris wheel symbology I spoke about recently, this dream that I had a little while back. So if you heard that, just take this as like double confirmation, or maybe you'll be guided to that after this. But it's sort of like 10:10, the Wheel of Fortune, fated versus destiny. I don't like to say versus, because to me that puts in that like duality, you know. And this message actually seems to be holding that space for the polarity, both this and that are true kind of thing. There was an oracle card from Toni Collette Barron, the Animal Oracle deck, I think it was called, and there was a dolphin. I haven't thought of this in a really long time, and it said this and that are true. And I used to pull that a lot, and I would get like a little bit like, ugh. And the idea of the middle path has also been coming up, which I've mentioned recently. So it's sort of like being able to hold that paradoxical energy. And with the Ferris wheel again coming through, it's sort of like this collective is in the frequency bandwidth, if you will, of like, I kept hearing the song in my head. This is so funny. From O-Town, Because I Want It All or Nothing at All. So it is, I think, like supposed to be a love song, which love can absolutely apply in this. But this also feels like, again, this might be very specific. So it feels like this group has taken on that really intense ancestral lineage pattern transmutation. So it feels like, yeah, this group has come in sort of pretty much personal, karmically speaking, with a clean slate is what it feels like. And you took on a bunch to transmute for both sides of your lineages. I'm hearing forward, backward, and present. So this Ferris wheel symbolically shows like when that is cleaned up, if you will, boom, it's like snap of the fingers, so many things happen at once. And it's interesting because I'm being shown like the Dharma path, and it's like, it's paradoxical. It's like that's always been part of the Dharma, but it was like disguised as karma because you took that on. And that's going to be, again, very specific for those who feel called to this. If you've gotten this far and you're still here and you're like really feeling it, then I was hesitant to talk about this because I don't want to mislead anyone, you know. It's like a very sensitive topic, but it's coming through like extremely strongly. Yeah, this may be a time. I just paused and I saw 5-5 on the timer, and then my notes popped back up and it was repeating 2s, 3s, and 7s. 307, 911. Like, you may be really getting almost like bombarded with number synchronicity and or like animal totems, however you connect to the universal language of synchronicity, etc. Okay, so I just checked that I actually started a transmission, which I don't do this very often, and didn't finish it, and it happened to end at 33 seconds. Like, I only did 33 seconds of it. And I started the transmission on March 8th at 1:11 p.m. And there was a St. Patrick's Day, like, parade going on, and I was watching dogs, and there were dogs barking. Like, it was a very chaotic moment. And when I felt guided to put on this subliminal that's on in the background right now, I didn't even realize it's 22 minutes long. And I just looked at the timer. It was 4:44. And there was a background of like shamrocks and luck and talking about like, you know, people call it like lucky syndrome. So I'm actually not going to post the other recording. I'm just going to integrate it into this one because that's the way it feels like I want to integrate that. Interesting. One of the affirmations is I am debt free. And I was talking about like debt, karmically speaking. And so some of you may have like physical, like money debt or some other sort of physical debt. I understand. And so, yeah, it feels like whenever you're finding this, that relief is happening. So that feels good. I sort of want to segue into something that feels connected to what is coming through. Little side note, I'm sitting next to a beautiful gray cat, my sister's cat, and her name is Freya. So someone here may be connected to Freya or feel connected to the Norse goddess Freya, or the archetype, I should say. She's been extra lovey lately. In fact, she slept with me last night. So, and I was just sort of scrying into wallpaper, and I saw this like beautiful feminine woman like holding I want to call it like a baby leopard. Like I feel like I've been seeing a lot of snow leopards. So Freya is in charge of love, fertility, battle, and death. Interesting. Her father was Njord, the sea god. Pigs were sacred to her, and rode a boar with golden bristles. So interesting because my niece has this little stuffy or whatever stuffed animal, and there's a couple different ones, and she's like really into the pig, and I've been noticing like pig symbology as well. And I actually wrote down Poseidon and Neptune, a lot of Neptune energy. So Poseidon to me feels very similar to the sea god. You know, in different cultures there's depictions of similar archetypes. And of course, when I tap into Freya, obviously Aphrodite is coming through really strongly as well. The Roman goddess of love, I can like feel her the energy of that culture depiction, but I cannot remember the name at this moment. Wow. You may hear me typing in the background. Venus. Oh my god. Venus. I feel like there's another name though. Right. Love, beauty, sex, fertility, and victory. So this energy has been coming through super strongly. And Neptune, I actually want to see. So in Greek, the Greek god Poseidon, Neptune in mythology is the god of fresh water and the sea in Roman religion, and the counterpart of Greek god Poseidon. So Poseidon. I'm really curious what anthroposophy. It's funny, I typed anthropology, but I meant anthroposophy, so that could be for someone. Maybe someone here is connected to anthropology in some way. But I wanted to see the significance of Neptune and anthroposophy because that's what I was feeling really guided to look into. Let's see. I just want to read like a little brief paragraph about the perspective of planets and anthroposophy. I mean, maybe you're extremely familiar with this, maybe it's new to you, maybe you're somewhere in the middle, but in each planetary stage in the evolution of our solar system, planets are created in the different stages to accommodate spiritual beings at various levels of development. Later on, they are merged again. And I feel like when I was saying earlier, it goes really well with like tuning into like the wholeness, you know, like the law of one, but then like sometimes tending to different subtle bodies or different layers. And then it goes on to say planets, or better, the planetary symbols in general describe and their influences relate to, and then there's bullet points, the spiritual communities of beings at different levels of development. I'm releasing so much through my throat right now, excuse me. Other than those of current humanity on Earth. And then the large planetary spheres, each with an etheric, astral, and spirit perspective. Their individual influences interpenetrate, in parentheses, like Russian dolls, and influence all we see in nature's kingdoms on Earth. The physical planets or material planetary bodies that we observe with our visual sensory perception and waking consciousness. This is from where we start our naming, thinking, and relating to the planets. The physical planets are harmonic material, indents, and if you're not familiar, harmonic. If you're not familiar with like the harmonic pulse, that gets into basically like materialism and how we view the world from a material perspective. I feel like there's a lot of negative connotation with the harmonic pulse, but that's a conversation for another time. Okay, in the planetary spheres. The spiritual beings corresponding to the planetary spheres have an influence on Earth and humanity. One finds this expressed in the language of astrology, or also in initiation and the evocation of the planetary beings. So I really wanted to tap in. I also am drinking this really delicious espresso, and I almost never get sugar in it, but this morning my sister was ordering us breakfast and I got to like add like raw sugars. It was like an option and I was like, no, but I was like, you know what? Something told me just to do it. And it's just such a good treat. So maybe someone here just really needs to treat themselves with something, or maybe you just did. So enjoy. Okay. So Neptune symbolically can represent the mastery of the seas, earthquakes, and even horses. Three-pronged spear called Trident represents the power, control, and balance over nature, a symbol of strength and resilience. It's funny because I pulled the Strength card in Tarot yesterday and the Chariot together, Chariot and the Strength. And then all day I kept hearing the song in my head, Chariot from Gavin DeGraw. And it's really funny because if you're listening, someone commented on the silicate DNA transmission that I posted about the Peacock constellation, which it's funny because I was just talking about like the white peacock. That might have been in that transmission, actually. I genuinely can't remember. But the peacock has been coming through so much. And I actually have not tapped into that constellation. So when I looked it up, one of the... hold on, I have it somewhere right here. Of course, in Latin, it's the Pavo constellation. Pavo, P-A-V-O. And Hera, or Juno in Roman mythology, queen of the heavens, used a peacock to pull her chariot through the skies. So when I read that, and of course yesterday the word chariot just kept coming through in different ways. I just wanted to share that because, there's also a constellation of the Great Chariot, Auriga. Interesting. So Auriga and Pavo. The constellation is believed to represent Java, green peacock. Peacock was Hera's sacred bird. The goddess drove through the air in a chariot drawn by peacocks. So Pavo or Auriga can be coming up for someone, and some of the characteristics of what these constellations can represent. And I don't know, when I think of the peacock, I think of like Leo energy in astrology. So there could be like a significant Leo placement or transit. That's just like a very specific little message for someone. I know for me personally, my Lilith is in Leo. And I feel like that has been really prominent for me lately. So even if that's not your Lilith placement, what that shows me is that there's fast-moving energy. You know, the Chariot and Tarot is very fast-moving. And again, that Strength card, Peacock, Leo, you know, puffing up the chest, really being taken to that snow leopard again, and that woman holding like a baby snow leopard, that image that I saw. In many cultures, the snow leopard is revered as a guardian of the mountains, a sacred being that holds the secrets of the ancients. Its solitary nature adds to its mystique, making it a symbol of the hermit or seeker on a spiritual quest. Okay, that's really funny because the hermit, Virgo energy, which I believe we literally just went through a Virgo lunar eclipse last night. I'm recording this on the day after. And yeah, the idea of like going through a wormhole has been coming up a lot lately. So yeah, you may feel like that sort of energy. And all of these archetypes coming through, like the snow leopard, the constellations of Pavo and Auriga. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I looked up some of the like characteristics of the main planet or the main star in Pavo, and that information is out there for anyone who's interested. You can just look up Pavo, the Peacock starseed is what they call it. For me, when I tune into these archetypes and constellations, sometimes I'm really trying to sit with this, and you may have heard me say this before. It often feels like a correlation to a DNA strand activation. So every time I feel like a new constellation that I'm working with, like archetypally, energetically, it feels like whatever that represents is that sliver of my consciousness, of my crystalline DNA, is being remembered, integrated, and activated. And so for the Peacock constellation and Auriga, the Chariot, it's like this stepping into more of the attributes of being seen, if you will. And I actually did find, one moment please, someone took the time to, she calls herself the Starseed Sanctuary on Instagram. I've never seen her before, but I found her through a Google search. And she talks about Peacock, Pavo starseeds, and some of the characteristics. She talks about deep-seated beliefs, and they walk their talk. Yeah, so being in alignment with, actions and what's that expression? What you practice, what you preach. So, what's funny? I was talking about this not that long ago, within the last few weeks. I felt like I kept meeting people that tell me a lot about them. Like, and that actually a lot of these people that do this are disappointed in other people for not being in alignment with what they say. They talk a lot, but they don't actually show up in and embody what they're preaching or what they're practicing, or telling others to practice. And it's really funny because I noticed that in them as well. And Anyway, so that's coming through for something. But it basically talks about like, she says, sure, they can get a little overboard sometimes with flash and fanfare, but at the end of the day, it's about living personal truth moment to moment. There's some background noise you may hear. This propensity makes them natural born leaders because people know they can trust them. And the idea of leadership has been coming through so strongly through these transmissions and stepping into this, what we're calling like new paradigm of leadership, of leading by example. It's said that they have to be careful about their egoic nature. But in this case, it really does feel like almost like self-defeating type of behavior, more so than like over-strutting, but that can be different for everyone. It talks about the true power of the medicine of Peacock is using your knowledge gracefully and humbly. And the main star is Alpha Pavonis, Pavonis. The main star in the Peacock constellation. And talks about letting your inner beauty shine, embracing self-esteem, seeking out beauty in others. Self-trust can be an issue. Yeah, that has been coming through a lot as well. And sort of balancing out the need to constantly second-guess yourself. And then talks about getting a strong inkling from their psychic self, but brush it off as just imagination. Yeah, I know that I've very much dealt with that. I'm sure a lot of you have too, or still are. They start giving those feelings more credit. So it's about balancing that as well. And it says like all the avian starseed types, Peacock star seeds, have incredible extrasensory gifts once activated, especially clairvoyance and clairsentience, and they are protectors, healers, and way showers. So that's just some information there. I haven't gotten too much on the Auriga. You may hear my ice clinking in my iced cappuccino. And the main star seems to be Capella or Alpha Auriga. Auriga. So I actually have heard of Capella. I didn't realize it was from the Charioteer or Chariot. Capella often symbolizes faith and reverence, solemnity through its connections with sacred spaces. This is like really specific, but the Chariot constellation Auriga can like actually be like literally more metaphorically helping to with that inspired action, as well as like literally like transportation. Like I'm seeing maybe someone here has been like wanting to change up the way they transport. Maybe someone's calling in like a plane flight somewhere, or train travel, or maybe a new car or an electric car or biking or whatever it is. Like there's something about that's very specific, but like working with the way that you transport. Maybe it's your physical body. Maybe you're wanting to be more active. You know, it could come out in multiple ways, different ways. Apparently some of the archetypes of Capellan constellation connections are like wisdom, insight, spiritual matters, ancient wisdom and traditions, which was also coming through the snow leopard. You know, basically navigating towards higher consciousness, awakening, playing roles of like teacher, healer, philosopher, really connecting into the inner truth and divine nature. Yeah. Oh, it can also be involved in guiding and mentoring roles. So if you are someone who's been thinking about stepping into that or deepening, and again, or like expanding in some way or doing something new with that. Working with the Capella energy can sort of help us ascend into that aspect of yourself, is what I'm hearing. I'm just taking a moment of silence to say thank you to all of you, all of the beings coming through and different archetypes, and yeah. I also pulled yesterday at the same time the sun and the moon, and I have this little tiny little I don't even know what you call it. It's like the deck is so small it can fit on your fingertip, and it's all just major arcana. And I asked what the collective could hear most right now, and it was literally the sun and the moon. And I honestly didn't even think about this, but the lunar eclipse, like the sun eclipses the moon or whatever, that's so symbolic and present in the energy. And I somehow yesterday was just really had a lot going on, and I wasn't able to sit with that, so I love that came through. And I did pull up a little bit of information of some already existing interpretations that can symbolize the sun and the moon together. The sun representing optimism, success, joy, and vitality, and the moon intuition, mystery, and the subconscious. And together it's like balance and duality, which I just realized now is coming through so much of this reading. Uncertainty and clarity. Again, a lot of paradoxical energy. Hidden truths coming to light. So a lot of this eclipse energy, I've heard a lot of others speak of this as well, is like, just a lot of hidden. And hidden can sometimes imply like, oh no, something's hidden from you. But some of it is exciting, like exciting things that are hidden. Hidden truths coming to light. Love and relationships. Intuition and action. Yeah, and I feel like that's what this balance of like is coming up, like inspired action, intuition. So very nice. I just got really hungry. Maybe someone here is also really hungry too. I feel like I just tasted French toast. I was just shown French toast, or like a Monte Cristo. That's like a very specific sandwich. Like challah bread. I have ice in my mouth. Also, when the sun and moon appear together, I can signify a balance between opposing forces. A period of both light and shadow, and the potential for both joy and uncertainty. And I feel like this whole, start of eclipse season, if you will, really embodies that so well. So I love that came out. And there were a few other connections coming up. So I felt guided to tap back into a book that I haven't finished yet. I was actually listening to a reader, and she's amazing. She said something like, oh, there's a book that maybe you were hard on yourself for not finishing, but it was like very divinely timed when you read this book, and like you're being called to pick it back up. And I knew exactly what book it popped in my head, and the time was so I just released that transmission about silica DNA, and the book is Angelic Realities, and I'm listening to it being read because I don't know, I do really well when I hear information. And Becca from Soul Based Life is reading the book and then sort of like weaving in her input. And since YouTube is so great, it like had where I left off last time I listened. So I pushed play and she literally started talking about silica and the silicate matrix and silicate DNA, and it was so great, such crazy timings. I literally just released about that, so it was a reminder about silica, which I was just talking about. And that day, I happened to see 307 and 911 at the same time, and I heard in my head Metatron and the frequency nets, quantum shift plasma fields. That's what I wrote down. And then literally when I pushed play, she started talking about the frequency nets and the sub-frequency nets and the metatronic reversal fields and all this stuff. Like, it was all like just perfectly synced and flowing. So in the Patreon overflow, I am going to go into some of the... Okay, so there's been a lot of synchronicity coming through about the Aurora body. And then I was led to what in the Ascension Glossary is called the Amoraea. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, flame. And as soon as I saw it, I knew to click on it. So that's what we'll be doing in the overflow. And it just got really loud where I am, so I'm going to wrap it up here. So if that interests you, I'll see you there. Thank you.